Welcome back to another class on Amot shel Halacha. En lo l'Hakadosh Baruch Hu be'olamo ela arba Amot shel Halacha bilvad. We are in the Chazara program. This will be part 25. Strongly suggest you listen to part 24, as today's class is a continuation from then. After seeing that there is a machloket when it comes to Havdalah, today Rabbi David Yosef Shluta is going to tell us how to circumvent that machloket, how to go around it. Step number one, we're going to see that when one is doing Havdalah, you want to have open intentions not to include the wine that one will drink during the meal. What is the benefit of that? Because now when you're going to drink wine during the meal, you don't have to bless Borei Priya Geffen. What am I saying? If this is the kosher Havdalah, and I'm saying Havdalah right now for my family, when I get to the blessing of Borei Priya Geffen, before I say that blessing, in my mind I want to have this kavanah. In my mind I want to do like this, that the blessing that I am about to bless now should only be effective for this cup of wine, and not for the cup of wine that I'm going to have during the meal. How does that help me? Because now that you did that, you excluded the wine that you can have during the meal, so therefore you are able to bless another blessing of Borei Priya Geffen on the wine during the meal. Now, Rabotai, this is called a negative kavanah. Meaning you excluded it. Step number two, what happens if one didn't do this? If you didn't do step number one, it happens, you're rushing, you forgot, no problem. Don't bless on the wine during the meal because of safek berachot la'akel. Now I want to just tell you, this over here we're going to say is neutral. Kavanah. You didn't think of nothing. We're going to tell you don't bless. Step number three, when you did step number one, there's a very big machlok between Rav David Yosef Shluta and Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef Shluta. If you should say the after blessing right after Havdalah, before you begin the fourth meal, or not. Rabotai, listen to this very carefully. When you did step number one, according to Rav David Yosef, since again, if you didn't listen to part 24, it's going to be very hard for you to understand everything. And plus, we saw this in Siman Reis Tzadik Tet, in Halacha Zayin and Chet, we did a lot of shiurim in the Shulchan Aruch, with the Mishnah, with Rabbi Dahant. We went back and forth, and so on and so forth, to Siman Kuf Ayin Dalad, and etc. There was a lot of information that went into this machloket between Rav Yitzchak Yosef and Rav David Yosef. Again, this is a review class. I can't go over the whole thing, but if you want to listen to it, it's in Siman Reis Tzadik Tet, Halacha Zayin, Halacha Chet. We did many parts to those two halachot, and this is where the whole machloket is based off. According to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shluta, he's going to tell you that even if you did step number one, don't bless the after blessing before you begin to eat your Sudah Revi'it. Allow the Birkat HaMazon that you're going to do on your fourth meal to go ahead and exempt the wine that you drank when you did the blessing of Borei Priya Geffen on that Havdalah. Rabotai, according to Rav David Yosef Shluta, he says no, you're going to bless the after blessing. So it goes like this. Let me try to be as clear as possible. When you did step number one, you had negative kavanah to exclude the wine that you're going to drink during the meal. That means when I'm going to drink wine during the meal, I'm going to say the blessing of Borei Priya Geffen. But what? The question now is, when do I say the after blessing? According to Rav David Yosef Shluta, you're going to say the after blessing immediately after Havdalah, before you're going to begin to eat the Su'udah Revi'it, the Malav and Malka meal. According to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shluta, he's going to tell you don't bless. Why shouldn't you bless? Because Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shluta holds, even though Rav David Yosef has a very good argument, Havdalah has nothing to do with the meal. It comes to separate Shabbat from the mundane day. That's what Havdalah does. It separates Kodesh from Chol. Nevertheless, comes Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shluta, and he goes with the opinion of the Rosh, where the Rosh learns that, you know what wine does? Wine opens up a person's appetite. So what do I care right now if it has to do with the mitzvah of the Su'udah or it has to do with the mitzvah of the Havdalah? What do I care? The wine doesn't understand why it's coming, for what it's coming. When you drink wine, it opens up your appetite. So clearly we can see that it's also part of the meal. So that's what Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita is going to tell you. Don't bless the after blessing after Havdalah, but rather what? Wash your hands, have your bread meal, drink your wine, but you have to say a bracha b'rei peri gefen because you did step number 1. And only afterwards, when you bench Birkat HaMazon, that Birkat HaMazon is going to cover the wine that you drank for Havdalah. This is the machloket. Again, Rabotai, in my humble opinion, I would go with Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef Shlita. You can also go with Rav David Yosef Shlita. He has a book over here that we're doing over here. I just want to show you something. If you pay close attention right over here, all this on the bottom is his sources. All this over here is his sources. All this, it goes all this also, all this. So he brings many poskim that say to do like him. He also brings a few that say like Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita. So Rabotai, again, you can do either or ask your local rabbi. In my humble opinion, I would stick with Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, but you can for sure do like Rav David Yosef. You will not lose out. So let's try to see this in the Sefer Halacha Berura, and then we're going to move on to the second side. Okay. Okay. Rav David Yosef Shlita begins and he says, "V'kedei letzedi dei safek." In order to come out from the doubt that we have, should you bless, should you not bless? Because remember, what was the machloket? The machloket, what we saw in part 24 was that if a person is doing havdalah on a kosher wine, on the kosher yain, does that bracha help for the wine that he's going to have during the bread meal? Some poskim want to learn, absolutely not. It's not going to help. Some want to learn, it's going to help. Since that there is a machloket, and in order to come out from this machloket, like we explained, what does Rav David Yosef should I tell you what to do? And by the way, it's also halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. Also Rav Yitzchak Yosef passes like this. In order to come out from this doubt, yichaven beferush, have open kavanah. Step number 1. B'sha'at shemavdil, at the time when you're doing havdalah, shelo liftor bebirkat borei pri gefen, shemevarech behavdalah, not to exempt with the blessing of borei pri gefen that you're blessing on the havdalah, et hayayin she'atid l'shod la'achar miken b'suda, that the wine that you're going to drink afterwards during the meal, which again, same concept. You want to have open kavanah at the time when you're doing the blessing of borei pri gefen on the kos shel yain of the havdalah. When you're saying borei pri gefen, you want to have open intention that that blessing should not exempt the wine that you're going to have during the meal. Why? So therefore you're going to go ahead and be able to bless borei pri gefen again. Ve'az, and then bevadai, for sure, yachol lachzor ulevarech birkat borei pri gefen al hayayin sheshtita b'tach hasuda. Then for sure you're going to be able to go and bless the blessing of borei pri gefen on the cup of wine that you're going to be drinking during the meal. This halacha right here. Nevertheless, if you didn't do so, we move down to step number 2. Lo yivarech al hayayin sheshoteh b'suda. Do not bless on the wine that you're going to be drinking during the meal. Do not bless on it. Why? V'klal gadol b'yadin shesavek berachot lakel. Because we have a very big rule in our hands that whenever you have a doubt, should you bless, should you not bless? Like we have over here, and it comes to berachot which are only from the rabbis, we're going to tell you to be lenient, meaning not to bless. So over here we saw 2 points. Point number 1, we did. Point number 2, we did. Okay, now this is out, Rabotai. Moving on. Moving on to step number 3. When you had open kavanah, when a person had open kavanah, meaning when you're doing step number 1, when when you have open kavanah not to exempt the wine that you're going to drink in the future in the meal, tzarich levarech la'acharav bracha me'en shalosh. You need to go ahead, according to Rav David Yosef Shlita, you have to go ahead and you have to bless the after blessing immediately after Havdalah, before you're going to do the Suda Revi'it. Ve'acher kach yitol yadav l'seuda, and afterwards you're going to go ahead and you're going to wash your hands for the fourth meal. So we clearly see, again, this is Rav David Yosef Shlita, right? This is his opinion. Again, I just want to make something clear over here. We're speaking about over here that you came home, you did Havdalah, and now at the same time you want to have, right after that, you want to have the fourth meal. We're not speaking that you want to have a meal after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. No. Because then you're going to have Hesech Da'at. Then you're going to have that you removed your mind from the meal. So everybody's going to tell you to bless the after blessing. What we're dealing over here with is that you're doing Havdalah now, and right after the Havdalah, you want to have a bread meal, and in the bread meal, you're going to drink wine. So that is the case that we're speaking about over here now. Like I explained before, Rav David Yosef Shlita, also who agrees with him, meaning who goes like his opinion, the Kaf HaChaim. The Kaf HaChaim also says you should say the after blessing before you wash your hands for the bread meal. They both hold like that. Before we do continue, I want to read for you over here in the Bi'ur Halacha in Rav David Yosef Shlita, the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, why he holds differently. Even though Rav David Yosef doesn't hold it, he brings it down, he knocks it out, then he brings it down, and then he goes back and forth. But the bottom line, he concludes like this. However, Rabbotai Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita concludes like this. Okay. Where'd it go? 1 second. Okay, here we go. V'ayin le-Maharshal, he says, look into the Maharshal b'Chochmat Shlomo, in the Sefer Chochmat Shlomo, in Masechet Pesachim Daf Kuf Amud Bet, בתוספות, דיבר מתחיל ידי יין, שכתב that the Maharshal wrote over there like this, שלדעת הראש, according to the opinion of the Rosh, בכל עניין, in all situations, אין לברך ברכה אחרונה על יין שלפני הסעודה. Do not bless on the wine, the after blessing before the סעודה. Even if you're not going to drink wine in the middle of the meal at all, still do not go ahead and bless the after blessing, as we'll see that later on. And for sure you shouldn't bless on the wine shel kiddush. When a person does kiddush on Shabbat, that is one of the reasons why you don't go ahead and you don't do the after blessing on the wine shel kiddush. If you drank 3 ounces, why aren't you saying Allah give him a prayer giffen? Reason number 1 is because we're going to say that Kiddush is part of the meal, because it allows you to start your meal. But another thing, Rabotai, wine, what does wine do? It opens up your appetite. So therefore there's no reason to go ahead and bless the after blessing before you wash your hands by Kiddush. But not like Tosfot over there. And then he brings the Korban Natanel, who also holds like this. But again, he brings a lot of Rabotai, a lot of Rishonim, a lot of Achronim that go just the opposite direction. But what do I want to show you over here? According to the Rosh, he holds you should never ever bless the after blessing when it comes to the Havdalah. When you're doing Havdalah and Koshal Yain, you should never bless the after blessing before washing your hands. Why? Since it opens up your appetite to be able to eat. We're going to say that the Koshal Havdalah is part of the meal. So therefore allow the Birkat HaMazon to take that, let the Birkat HaMazon to exempt the after blessing that you had to bless. Okay. So, one more time, Rabotai, before we do turn the blackboard, we see from over here, when you did step number 1, according to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, you're not going to bless the after blessing before washing your hands. Rather, what are you going to do? You're going to wash your hands. You're going to have your meal. You want to drink wine. You don't want to drink wine. That's up to you. Then when you're going to eventually bless Birkat HaMazon, that Birkat HaMazon is going to go ahead and it's going to take out the wine that you drank during the Havdalah. According to Rav David Yosef, he's going to tell you, no. You're going to go ahead and you're going to bless the after blessing first before washing your hands. Okay, this is the machlokes between them. Again, ask your local rabbi and follow his lead. Now, moving on to the next side. Now we want to see like this. We're going to see over here a few points. Rabotai, it gets a little bit easier since now we know that. So it gets a little bit easier. So Rav David Yosef says like this. Bidina muvu'ur le'el b'sifa kodem. In the halacha that was explained above in the previous halacha, שמעיקר הדין יין של הבדלה שקודם הסעודה פותר את היין שבדתו לשתות בתוך הסעודה שאוכל מיד לאחר מכן. According to halacha, what we explained is that the wine of the havdalah that a person is having before the suda is able to exempt the wine that a person wants to drink during the suda when he's going to have a meal right away. Hu adin she'enu mevarech brecha me'en shalosh. The same halacha is going to apply that you don't have to bless the after blessing. After drinking the cup of wine, when it comes to the kos shel havdalah. Now I want to explain to you like this. Halachically speaking, when a person does wine, right? When you're doing when you're saying the havdalah on the kos shel wine, on the kos shel yain, when you're basically blessing on the wine before havdalah, this is going to exempt. It's going to exempt. Just erase this. It's going to exempt the wine during the meal. Now, Rabotai, I want to just explain to you over here because we have a few points that we have to look into. When are we going to tell you that wine before Havdalah is going to exempt the wine during the meal? That specifically if you had in mind that is specifically if you had the wine in mind. Rabotai, let me go one more time. When you're going ahead and you're blessing on the wine before Havdalah, this wine is going to be able to exempt the wine during the Havdalah, meaning during the meal. Number 8, point 1. When is that? At the time when I was saying the blessing, I had the wine in mind. So if I had the wine in mind that I'm going to drink during the meal, we're going to tell you, good, this wine is going to exempt the wine during the meal since you had it in mind. Let's try to be like this. Let's put this like this. Rabotai, this is called a positive kavanah. You want to include it. Point number 2, you didn't have the wine in mind. What's going to be the halacha? Like step number 2. What was step number 2, Rabotai? What was step number 2? If one didn't do this, don't bless on the wine during the meal, because you had neutral kavanah. Simple as that, Rabotai. Moving back. Step number 3 and C. What happens if you excluded the wine? What happens if you excluded the wine, like step number 3, right? If you went ahead and you excluded the wine, when you did step number 1, which is excluding the wine, when you had negative kavanah, you're going to do like step number 3, which is what? You're not going to bless the after blessing. According to Rav David Yosef, no, I'm sorry. According to Rav David Yosef, you're going to bless the after blessing. According to Rav Yitzchak Yosef, you're not going to bless the after blessing, but you have to follow step number 1, Rabotai, that when you're going to have wine during the meal, you're going to bless Borei Prei Gefen. All right, so let's see this one more time. Let's see this one more time. Halachically speaking, if a person had wine before Havdalah, meaning if a person blessed on the wine, on the Havdalah wine, before Havdalah, this wine is going to be able to exempt the wine during the Havdalah, not during the Havdalah. This wine is going to exempt the wine during the meal. When is that? If I had the wine in mind, positive kavanah. This is over here. The next two steps, Rabotai, is something we learned previously. What happens if I didn't have, at the time when I was saying the brach on the wine before Havdalah, I didn't have any kavanah? Good, I'm going to still tell you that the wine during the meal is going to be exempted by the wine that you had before Havdalah. However, when it comes to case number 3, when you are excluding the wine, like we saw in step number 3 that there's a machlokit when it comes to the after blessing, nevertheless, when it comes to the beginning blessing, we're going to tell you what? That the wine before the Havdalah will not exempt. Okay, Rabotai, you see how I'm working down each case has to be looked at it separately. Again, we're going to read that inside also. Now, okay, so this is the halacha. Okay, fine. This was the first halacha that we did over here. So one more time. Bidina amur le'el b'siva kodem, in the halacha which was explained in the previous law, shemi'ikar adin, that halachically speaking, yain shel havdalah, wine of the havdalah wine, shekodem asuda, which is before the meal, poter is going to exempt et hayain, is going to exempt the wine shebidato l'shtot betoch asuda, that it's in his mind to drink during the meal, sheochel miyad la'achar miken, that he's going to eat immediately right afterwards. Hu adin she'enu mivarech bracha me'in shalosh. The same halacha is going to apply in this situation, that he's not going to bless the after blessing. Achar shtiyat hayain shel kos havdalah. After drinking the wine of the kos shel havdalah, you're not going to bless on it also. So let me just do this, Rabota. Let me just try to modify this one more time. Okay, should have. 1 second, let me just see something. Okay. Halachically speaking, whenever we're going to tell you that wine before the Havdalah is going to exempt the wine during the Havdalah, not the Havdalah, one more time. The wine before Havdalah is going to exempt the wine during the meal, just like this wine is able to exempt it when you had the wine in mind, just like the wine is able to exempt the wine during the meal, we're also going to tell you it's going to exempt the after blessing. Rabotai, leave this out for now. Just these B and C is something else. Just leave that out for now. We're going to focus on this because over here we also had different situations like we saw before. So that's what Rav David Yosef Shutai is telling us now. That when you're blessing on the kos shel yain before Havdalah, before the meal, and you had in mind the one that you're going to drink in the meal, good, this wine is going to exempt the wine during the meal. Just like this wine is going to exempt the wine during the meal, so too it's going to exempt you from blessing and after blessing. By you saying Birkat HaMazon, it's going to exempt this wine after. However, continue Rav David Yosef, and he tells us, Verak im kiven biferush shelo levtor bibracha et hayan shatid l'shtot b'toch hasuda, unless he said you had open kavanah, not to exempt, you had negative kavanah, to exclude the wine that you're going to drink in the future. We connect like it was written above. Okay, Rabotai, one more time. I know it's going back and forth, but this is it, Rabotai. This is what learning is. According to Rav David Yosef Shutai, he's telling you, one more time. When I'm going to tell you this rule that you don't have to bless Borei Pri Gefen, so therefore, since you had a positive kavanah, you don't. Okay, you know something that's better. Since you had a positive kavanah, you don't have to bless Borei Pri Gefen. So too, you don't have to bless an after blessing. When am I going to tell you this? That's only in case A, where I had the wine in mind. However, Rabotai, what happens? Rav David Yosef Shutai tells you, what happens if you excluded the wine like step 3? Then he's going to tell you, you don't bless. Oh. Then he's going to tell you over here, like this, you're not going to bless. When you did step 1, According to Rav David Yosef Shita, you're not going to bless the after blessing. No, you're not. You are going to bless the after blessing. This is so confusing. Okay. Rabbi said one more time. Not a big deal. One more time. Let's do it one more time. All right, one more time. Let's do this one more time. According to Rav David Yosef Shlita, if a person had a positive kavanah, you're not going to bless borei peri gefen on the wine during the meal, and also you're not going to bless the after blessing. However, Rav David Yosef Shlita says, but if you're working with KC, where you're excluding the wine, where it's a negative kavanah, like this, negative kavanah, Rav David Yosef Shlita is going to tell you, you do need to bless the after blessing. Not only are you going to need to bless the after blessing, but you also have to bless the borei peri gefen blessing in the middle of the meal when you're going to drink the cup of wine. However, Rabotai, in this situation over here, in case number 2, in case B, if a person didn't have any kavanah, it was neutral. We're going to tell you to do like step 2, correct? Which is what? Not to bless borei peri gefen. Right? If one didn't do step number 1, don't bless on the wine during the meal. Neutral kavanah. If I'm not blessing on the wine during the meal, so too I'm not going to bless the after blessing. I will allow Birkat Hamazon to do the job. All right, now we're moving on to the next piece. Ulam, however, he says, Im hivdil kodem hasuda. What happens if a person went ahead and he did havdalah before the meal? Right? If a person went ahead and he did havdalah before the meal, and in his mind, he's not going to go back and drink more during the meal. Right? If a person did havdalah before the meal, and if in your mind you don't want to drink during the meal, we're going to see 2 cases, Rabotai. It says like this. Ulam im hivdil kodem hasuda. If a person went ahead and he did havdalah before the meal, and in his mind he's not going to want to drink wine during the meal, צריך לברך ברכה מעין 3 אחר היין של הבדלה. You need to go ahead and you need to bless the after blessing after the wine of Havdalah. Rabotai, again, I want you guys to pay close attention. Each case is very different. Over here we're speaking about where you wanted to drink. It's just, you didn't have kavanah, right? Over here you had positive kavanah. Over here you had neutral kavanah. Over here you had a negative kavanah, but you still wanted to drink. Case number 2 over here, what we're speaking about right now, is something else. What happens if I don't want to drink at all? For example, I don't like to drink alcohol, so I won't drink. If it's not Pesach, and if it's not, what do you call it? If it's not Shabbat or Yom Tov, or if it's not Havdalah, there's no reason for me to drink wine, so I won't drink. Right? So a person, he doesn't drink, he's not going to want to drink wine during the meal. According to Rav David Yosef Shita, is going to tell you, bless after the wine of Havdalah. He's going to tell you to go ahead and bless. Now, that's according to Rav David Yosef Shlita. But if you remember, according to Rav Yitzchak Yosef, since he learns that what does wine do? It opens up your appetite. Still, I'm going to tell you that it is part of the meal, even though really it's not. But we're going to make it part of the meal because it opens up your appetite. So according to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, in such a situation, you're not going to bless the after blessing. Remember this rule, Rabotai. According to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, since it opens up one's appetite, no matter the situation, you're not going to bless. Whether you're having wine, whether you're not having wine in the meal, doesn't matter. Once I drink wine before the meal, automatically it opens up my appetite for the meal. So it becomes part of the meal. Don't say the after blessing and allow Birkat Hamazon to exempt the wine that you had before the meal. All right. Now, Continues Rav David Yosef Shloita, and he says, "V'im lo berech kodem masuda." According to Rav David Yosef Shloita, what happens if a person didn't bless before the meal? He forgot. What should you do next? Yivarech betoch hasuda. You should bless during the meal. Again, this is only according to Rav David Yosef. Also, the kavanah holds like that, but not Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shloita. He brings down over in parentheses and he says, all this what I just said up to now is only in regards to the wine of Havdalah. But the one who drinks wine of Kiddush of Friday night, and afterwards he's going to eat the Shabbos meal, he shouldn't bless the after blessing on the wine of Kiddush, even if you're not going to drink wine during the meal at all. Why? Because Kiddush is part of the meal. וברכת המזון פותרת את יין, ברכת המזון פותרת את יין הקידוש. And ברכת המזון is going to exempt the wine of the Kiddush that you drink before you wash your hands. Rabotai, this rule what I just read, according to Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shloita, also applies by the wine of Havdalah. And with this, Rav David Yosef Shloita concludes, and he says like this: since there is a very big machloked, should you bless the after blessing? Should you not bless the after blessing? Rav David Yosef gives you another advice on how to go around the machloked. Nevertheless, if you want to fulfill your obligation according to all the poskim, not to have a machloked, after you bless the after blessing, on the wine of Havdalah, lo yochal miyad et su'udato. Don't eat the meal. Do not eat the meal immediately. Ela, rather, what should you do? Yaseh hefsek vehesech hadaat. Do an interruption and remove your mind from the meal. Leave your house, go to the public domain, go outside. Come to the court for a few minutes. And afterwards, and afterwards come back home and eat your meal.